Good afternoon everyone, it's Caroline here at Caroline's Corner on Flosstube. It's Tuesday the 31st of October and I'm back for Flosstube number 33, which is to recap Sampler September, recap the Great British Sampler Weekend, and just generally what I've been working on for September and October. I'm hoping the lighting on this will be okay because it's a very, very dreary day here in Yorkshire. It's not stopped raining for a couple of days, so the lighting isn't great, even though I'm up in the attic, which has huge large Velux windows, so we get plenty of natural light, but it's just never got really light today. So as I said, I'm Caroline. I'm in Leeds in West Yorkshire. You can find me on Instagram as @CarolineAKemp, and Caroline is spelled with a K. I am on Facebook, but I tend to keep my account there private, so unless I've actually met you. But I do post a lot, a fair bit on some of the stitching groups on Facebook. I am on Twitter, but I don't really post on there much anymore, and I am on Threads. Again, I'm trying to it's mostly Instagram I post on. Show notes for this episode will be on my blog, which is carolinescorner.blogspot.com. And I think that's about it. It's half term. I survived. It was a close run thing at times. Yeah, I'm really sorry it took me so long to edit my last video, but the first half term of the year is always particularly full on. And it never seems to get any better. It always only ever seems to get more full on every September. So, but hey ho, I'm recording this at the start of half term, so hopefully I've got a chance to get it edited before I go back to work next Monday. So, shall we get stuck in with the stitching? I actually have a fully finished object to share. I have fully finished Spot of Autumn by the Drawn Thread. If you've been around, you know that I have been finishing these this year. I stitched them back in 2009 and they've sat in the finishing pile. So I finished spring, I finished summer, I've now finished autumn. My goal is to finish winter as well this year, and then that's 4 older finishes straight off the pile. So it's just finished a simple flat ornament. It goes in a tiered tray I've got on my dining table with all my autumn things. I stitched it on cream 36 count linen using the called for threads, which I think are just DMC. Random bit of gingham from my fabric stash, and the pom-pom trim is Lady Dot. So yeah, very pleased to have got that done, and to be almost at having finished the set off. So, on to Sampler September and the works in progress that I worked on in Sampler September. I junked my normal rotation. I stuck with the 5 days, but I spun a random generator wheel, series of random generator wheel, put all my samplers on a wheel and spun the wheel to see what came up. So the whips that came up, and each one got 5 days. First one was Hands Across the Seas, Florence Mary Dickinson. This was Started this earlier this year. This was an exclusive last year for Hands Across the Sea sampler and Hobby House Needleworks. I'm stitching her using the Call for DMC, which I got the kit from Hobby House. Because I got the kit, I got this special floss jewellery frippery from Minnie McBean's with a little snippet from the sampler on it there. The fabric I'm stitching it on is the Tabby Cat Linen Creme Brulee on 40 count. So when I started this earlier this year, really all I got done was the vine on the border. So this time, let me put a board behind the bit I've been working on. I was concentrating on in this corner. Again, mostly working on border. There's quite a lot of stitching in this border because you've got the two different colours of types of flowers. You've got the little red ones and you've got the sort of the harebell type. Got one of the birds done, one of the little trees in progress. That's in progress. I don't think I finished that. Yeah, I think that's in progress. So that was 5 days progress, but onwards and upwards. All progress is good progress. I was quite pleased with that, pleased to move that forward. And even if it is just getting a load more border done, at least it's more than it was. So very nice to have that one out again for the duration. The second one that came up was Birds of a Feather from With Thy Needle and Thread, which I got when she was doing it as a mystery stitch along quite a few years ago, and I bought it at the time. I have heard Brenda I believe thinking about re-releasing it, so hopefully she does, so that everyone who wants it, because it's a lovely design, can get hold of it. So this one I'm stitching it using on the Call for Grey Weeks Dye Works fabric. I think it's 35 count, with the Call for Weeks Dye Works over dyed cottons. Now this one I got some done, and then I discovered I'd made a counting mistake and had to frog virtually all of it except this red flower, which is when I noticed I'd made a counting mistake. So all the borders, everything else I'd done, which was that, had to come out. So everything you can see apart from that bit of red there is what I put in this time round. So I'm quite pleased to have got about half of this, so I'm halfway up this, across this top border, and starting to go down the side as well. So quite pleased with my progress. Again, pleased with my progress on that. That was 5 days stitching, fair bit of frogging in that one. So I do spend 5 days on a project, but I'm doing well. It's a good stitching night if I get more than an hour at a time. Hours stitching in, especially on a night after work. I might get a couple of hours on a Saturday night, but Friday and Saturday night, but that's it. I've got 2 teenage children and we end up spending a lot of time playing the parental taxi. But I do love this one and I'm really pleased with how it's coming together. And then it was on to another reproduction sampler and another Hands Across the Sea sampler. September was a real Hands Across the Sea month for me. So this is Rose Ada Featherstone, which again was a exclusive from Hobby House Needleworks, but this one was in 2021. Again, I got the overdyed cotton kit from Hobby House. I'm not sure what the fabric is other than it's the 40 count, because I've forgotten to make a note of what the fabric was. And here is where I got to. I didn't have a lot done on that one. I think I was about halfway across this top border with the green. So I took it all the way across and came down, and then I was coming back in, filling in the flowers. And I made a start on this, I don't know if it's a vase or what, but it's lovely and bright, the colours on this one. Rose Ada really liked her colours. So, very pleased again to have gone on a bit further than just a little scrap of border. So there we go. And then the random number generator came up with Sheepish Designs Remember Me for my 4th project for Sampler September. This is a really old chart. It's 1988 is the copyright chart, so it's hand drawn. And I got this. I was in a stash enhancement club back in the early days when traditional stitches first launched, and this is one of the pieces that she sent out in that club. I'm stitching it with the called for DMC, which are all lovely muted colours, on the linen that Janice sent out, which I think is lamb's wool, but I'm not entirely sure. So I'm stitching it 1/2, and this is my progress. I'd gotten sort of from there down done when I first started it. I started it earlier this year. Was it this year or last year? Last year. So I went upwards. So where this border ends is about the halfway point on the up. So I've got that the lowercase alphabet done, and a fair bit of the satin stitch alphabet for the top row. So again, very happy to have got a good chunk of progress on this one, and loving how it's looking. I should get back to this one at some point next year. I'm planning on whip-go. I've got enough small to medium projects to do a whip-go board, so I'm going to whip-go all my small to medium projects. I'll come back to what else I stitched in September shortly, but I'll run through some of my whips from November first. So the first one I picked up was from the Heart Basket, so I was back to my regular rotation. This is one I'd quite like to get finished by the end of the year. I'm not sure I'm going to make it though, because it's just from where I am now. I've stitched the fob, I've stitched the pincushion, and working on the band for the basket. This was a chart that Lois, when she owned Elegant Stitch before she became Lady Dot, issued. It's a fundraiser for breast cancer in the early 2000s. It's being stitched with mostly some DMC, mostly some perlé cottons, and some weak dye works. There's thistle and there is carnation. My thread keep is from Kelton Scott Needle Arts. And this is where I got to this time around. I was about halfway through doing the plain pink hearts, which are all pink perlé, number 12. So they're all over, I'm doing them all over one. Pattern actually calls for them to be rose hearts, but every other heart in the companion pieces to this is done over one, so I decided I wanted them all to look the same. Talk about rod for one's back, but hey ho. So I got them finished, got all the over one. In the week's dye work's finished. I'm about done. The 4-sided stitch around this one. Then there is another row. There's 3 more rows of this vine. There's some over one wording to go underneath. This is why I'm saying I don't know that I'm necessarily going to get it finished this year, but I'm going to give it a good shot, because I've got another 3 of these to do, and each pair is totally surrounded by nun stitch, which it just takes its time to do. Lovely, and does make the finishing a little easier. But so yeah, quite pleased to be almost finished with the first section of that band. After From the Heart, it was back to the Guardian. I'm actually feeling like I'm making some real progress on the Guardian now, so having had to restart it earlier this year. I'm stitching this on some random 28 count even weave from my stash. It did come as a kit, but like I say, I started it and I got the kit fabric the wrong way around, but I'd done too much to frog, so I just said it was easy to restart, especially because it's being stitched in DMC. So these are all the DMCs. Came with the kit. And here's my progress. You'll have to excuse all the threads. I'm trying the parking method on this one and working diagonally, which I don't normally do on these things. But as you can see, I've actually moved on to the main part of the picture, just ever so slightly. I feel like I'm getting somewhere when I finally start doing dragon, but hey, nice to get a little bit of grass in after doing a load of the border. And cloud, varying different shades of very, 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 very pale whites and greys. But yeah, border, I have to say, is looking lovely. Although I'm cursing the fact that at the time she designed this, there weren't suitable overdyes for Teresa to use, because she even said later on that if there'd been a good overdye, she'd have used a good overdye. But it does look very effective. It'll look even better once I get the back stitching in, but I'm going to save that till later. So yeah. So that's a good, so yeah, so I got quite a good section on Guardian this time round. So I feel like I'm getting a handle on how to handle my threads, feel like I'm getting a handle on how it's moving, and it was nice to actually get to do something other than border. The whip I picked up after that was Fruits of the Vine Hussif. This is my oldest whip, therefore this is the one that's getting worked on every month, apart from Sampler September when obviously it wasn't worked on, till it gets finished. I took the class with Ellen back in 2011. So I finished the smalls that go with the case. I just need to stitch the sample that goes on the outside and the little pin cushion for in the case. This has been stitched in a mixture of silks. I think most of them are dinky dyes. There is some Gloriana in there as well. They're lovely to work with. Ellen always puts them on these hornbook type thread organisers. Right. Prince of the Vine. Right, where was I? And when I put this down in August, I'd got these 2 bluebirds in and the 2 hearts. Since then, I've brought this border down, so there's a couple of bunches of grapes. I've brought this side border down, but mostly I was working on the berry bowl. The thing about this sampler, which I'd forgotten until I picked it up again, is there's an awful lot of stitching in this sampler, and it's all over one. These berries are beautiful, but they're all over one. The grapes, beautiful, all over one. And the verse, all over one. So yeah, so it's just chugging away at it, plugging away at it, but at least I'm starting to see serious progress on this. Even if I am spending an awful lot of time stitching over one. But it'll be worth it when it gets finished and made up. We won't talk about the finishing just yet. That might take a bit of, that's going to take a few months, I suspect, when I actually get it all stitched up. I think I have a C.A. Wells etui I need to finish first before I get on to, which I'll need to finish that before I finish the stitching on this one. Right, the last whip I have to, whip in this section I have to show you is this one, which is the Milk Paint Sampler Thread Keep by Mary Gary's Sewing Cabin, which was part of the Remember the Ladies series that Krynic Threads put out in the early 2000s to promote their Milk Paint Silk Mori threads. Now, I started this in 2019, same year as I started the From the Heart. This one I think I will get finished this year because I have not too much else left to do. I'm working on this side this time round. So I had already stitched the house and one of the trees. I finished the other tree off. Got the lady in, and her little sampler. I don't know if you can see that, but there's a little over one sampler there. I got that in shot, yeah. There's a couple of doodads, and I made a start on the big Quaker motif up here. And then there's some satin stitch up here, couple of flowers to do, and then I'm done. These are the Silk Mores. They're beautifully soft colours. I'm not sure what the fabric is. It's some 32 count from my stash. It wasn't labelled. I think it's very old Silk Weaver from back when I was in the Silk Weaver Fabric of the Month Club, which was again the early 2000s. So I know Silk Weaver's gone through a few changes of ownership since then. But it was just the right size for this project, so that's why I stitched on it. Right, my new start for September, and is actually the whip I've been working on now at the end of October, is Anne Kirby 1845 by Needlework Press. So I started this last month. So at the time I bought it last year, it was an exclusive for the Homespun Needlework group, so if it's not out already, it will be out very soon. So I bought the kit, and it came, I think this one was through Hobby House, and I got the cottons, so it's all classic Colourworks threads. And when I put it down at the beginning of after my section in September, I thought I was quite close to having finished the border. So when it came up for my reproduction sample slot, because I decided I needed a change. It was a month for when I spun the wheel for a change. I thought, oh, great, I'll finish the border and I'll get onto all the motifs on the inside. I got down to here, the bottom corner, and when I was lining up my motifs, I was 2 stitches out. There was a lot said, none of which I can put on this channel because that would give me an explicit rating. I counted back and I was 1 stitch short up here, and I put an extra stitch in back there. So I frogged all up this side, all along the top. So instead of getting onto the fun stuff, I have been mostly stitching the border. Like Carol said in a recent video, getting the border in, it's like eating all your grains. I have been eating a whole truck full of greens on this one. But it knit up last night, so I got a tiny bit of the greenery in. Started one of the inside ones. I was really hoping to get one of the big flower motifs done this time round because that looks like that'll be fun to do. So I'll be working on this tonight. I'll get a little bit more in, hopefully get some other colours in than a very, very pale beige and dark green. I'm fed up with the dark green, and given I had to frog so much of it, hoping I've got enough to finish it. But yeah, this is on 40 count hog bristle from Fox and Rabbit. So, but I'm really pleased to have gotten the border done. It would have been very frustrating to have to come back. So onwards and upwards from this point in. Right, I am just going to pause stuff here because there's something I've forgotten to get, and then I'll be back with you to talk about the Great British Sampler Weekend. Right, I'm back. Let's talk about the Great British Sampler Weekend. Fairly sure quite a lot of people have already vlogged about this. It was a fantastic weekend. I will put some pictures in at the end of the segment. I didn't take a lot of pictures, mostly because I was just trying to soak it up and be not looking at it through my phone. Stitching wise, the run up to going away for the weekend was just so busy. I actually didn't stitch for Monday to Thursday. There was so much I needed to get in place before I could go. I just was so knackered. I was just going to bed with a book in the evenings rather than sitting down and watching the TV and stitching, which is what I normally do. I couldn't get the Friday off work because September's nuts busy, but I did manage to get Friday afternoon off because we don't have students in on Friday afternoon. That's staff development time. So I set off from work at about 12:30 on the Friday. I got into Swindon just before 6. It's a 5-hour drive at that time of day, and there's roadworks all the way down. So I missed some of the beginning stuff. Stitching room had opened at 4. So unfortunately I didn't get in for that. But when I got there, I was handed a box by Nicola and a plastic bottle full of that I sort of looked at and thought, oh, why is she giving us lizard litter? Which, yeah, it was crushed walnut shells, which we used to do with in the contents of this box. So I kind of looked in the box and thought, oh, but I was just too... I needed time to catch up. So anyway, so in the box was the retreat project, which was A. Robson 1897, which is a sampler, and then there is a square pincushion, which is what the crushed walnut shells were for. It came with the fabric for stitching the project. Now I started this on the Sunday and made that my 1st of October start. So this is tabby cat linen. I think the colourway is called Windsor, but I'm not sure. We got given the silk, so there's a red and a green silk, so I've got the border done. So I think mine was 40 count. There were a couple of thread winders, which I've wound my silk onto from Sajou. Were lovely. There was a microfiber glasses cloth, that's needlework press, because it's got the Angot sampler on. Just tuck that away. There was a tin from Hobby House Needleworks. That has a magnet inside, so you can use it for your needles. There was a tape measure that had a tape measure charm on it, so we could work out our placement on our fabrics. And there are a couple of beautiful counting pins. The ribbon was actually tied around my fabric. A couple of beautiful counting pins to go in our pincushions when they're done. And then there was a little bottle of needles. All in these fish and chips box. Sorry, I'm just going to put stuff away because there's a lot of stuff from the retreat. So yeah, so I got that when I got there. To hunt around a bit to try and find a table that had a spare seat, because I was one of the last people to turn up. I got there, I was aiming to get there just in time for tea, because that was served at 6, which I did manage to do, which was quite good. So on the Friday night, I couldn't face starting that. I decided I'd say starting the project for Sunday. So I decided to just settle in. What I'd taken with me to work on was Hannah coats. So I put a couple of lengths of thread for inner on Friday night. Hannah's being stitched in DMC, and my floss jewellery, and I'll say this every time, was stitched by my daughter when she was on a guide trip in Switzerland in 2019. And Hannah actually turned out to be quite a good choice, because so Friday night was just sit down, get to know your table mates, start, and there was shopping. I think there was supposed to be a speaker, but that didn't happen because there was just a feeding frenzy. Michelle from Tabby Cat had tables and tables and tables of linen. Nicola had loads of bits for sale. She'd got some of the mice scissor holders and fob. She's got all her cushion covers. The one thing I was disappointed was I would have liked to buy it. I had a shopping list of I wanted to get some charts, and she didn't really have charts for sale. I think there was the chart, the sampler she launched at the weekend, a new sample. She had that one, but she didn't really have any of the others that I was after. But you know, she only had a finite amount of space and had a lot of other stuff to bring, so I totally get why she didn't bring them, but I was a little disappointed in that. But on the other hand, I could spend my money on other stuff. Minnie McBean's had got loads of stuff, and it was all very well, beautifully presented, as you might imagine. So I'm nosy at that. And on the Saturday, we just had lots and lots and lots and lots of different people talking. So there was Dawn Cook-Ronigan talking about her book about the needle rolls and doing a presentation on that. She was the first one. And what I could do was, because I'm doing so much fill-in on Hannah Cates, so this is this is the whole thing. She's a big girl. I think I got more stitching done on the Saturday, listening to all the speakers, than I've done than I normally get done in a whole week. So yeah, so while I was listening to all the speakers, I got loads of grass filled in. I think I had finished, I think I'd already finished. I finished the other, I think it's meant to be a goat, but it looks rather like an alpaca to me. And I got the rest of the windows in on the house, and I got a load of the house filled in, because just sitting there doing the fill-in meant I could concentrate on the talks, and there were some fantastic speakers. So very pleased with how much progress I made on Hannah while I was in one day at the retreat. So yeah, Hannah's being stitched, so stitched in DMC, she's on 40 count light mocha linen from Zweigart. Great. Juggle stuff. When we came down on the Saturday morning, at everyone's place were these drawers. It's a lovely gift. It's painted on the back. I'm not quite sure. They found a place to live. I have a old cabinet that was my grandmother's that I keep my linens in, so they live on top of that. I'm not sure what I'm going to put in the drawers yet. I have various of a small collection of 103 and different Access commodity silks, which may go in these drawers, and maybe my Krynic as well. Still working that one out. And also a little scissor block with a pair of scissors, which were also our gifts. So Saturday morning, as I said, there was Dawn Cook-Ronigan talking about her interesting book, which I've already got a copy of. I got a copy when it came out. And then there were quite a few other people who were over for the retreat and decided to give us talks. And there were quite a lot of, and they were all very generous, the designers. So there was Ray from Red Barn Samplers. She gave a very interesting talk about how she started collecting samplers. She basically got lucky and managed to buy a whole collection, somewhat cheaper than I think Lily Brain sold. She gifted us with a chart, the Sarah Sophia Railton 1796 sampler snippet. The whole sample, she had the original sampler there, along with the model for this, and the sampler's beautiful, so I do hope she charts it. So she adapted it slightly. So she gave us that. She also gave us the linen to stitch it on, which is some mason linen. So it's medium dark button box and 40 count, which is incredibly generous of her. So expect me to see that as a new start next year. Put stuff. Kathleen Littleton of Cross Stitch Antiques was also there, and she gave a little presentation about this. Annie Matilda Moss from Daglingworth School, which was just up the road from Swindon, and again gifted us this chart for the sampler. She had her model there, she had the original sampler there, so it's very cute. Jennifer from Violets and Verses also gave a talk about her Bristol's plus, and gave us this little kit. I don't know if you can see, the project bag says chicken noodle soup protector, because apparently her Bristol sampler that she was stitching as a model just before the Bristol weekend at the attic had a bit of a close encounter with some chicken noodle soup. So she gifted us the chart, little kit to stitch a Bristol sampling on some banding. She gifted us the banding and some DMC to stitch it with, and also a packet of chicken noodle soup with strict instructions to keep it well away from our stitching and not do what she'd done. Oh, and the project bag has a chicken on the zip. Robin from Old Willow Stitchery was there, and she gave us this design for a little pin keep. There were also talks from, I think, Sampling the Memories was there, and she talked to us a little bit about how her design, her company had started. That was Saturday morning. If there's any, there was probably other people. Just sort of, my head was probably about ready to explode at that point. Two lovely talks in the afternoon. We had Rebecca Scott of Whitney Antiques. Came and gave us a presentation about their New Whitney exhibition. I won't get down to Whitney, it's too far from here, unfortunately. Their exhibitions were always just at the wrong time of year for me to be able to go. But I've got the catalogue on its way, hopefully. Should be here soon. And Jane Greenough gave a talk in the afternoon. A hugely entertaining talk, given it was back into the afternoon after Rebecca Scott. Tell Jane is very practiced at doing this. So yeah, so that was our speakers on Saturday. And then Nicola had got a friend of hers to come in and give us a talk on, who had been royal photographer on the Royal Yacht, to be the after dinner speaker. Tom, I've got a note of his name, Tom Suddis, and he was very entertaining. And as a serviceman, kept it just the right side of the line, just. But very, very entertaining. On the Sunday morning, we had talks. Sunday we had talks from Cissy Bailey Smith, who talked about Scottish samplers, and then gifted us with this chart for, it's called Christina's Hidden Queen self-line needle book, taking some motifs from a sampler that she's reproduced, which interestingly had some connection, probably had some connections to the village where I grew up, because I grew up in Scotland. Christina McClellan, 1821 is the full sampler, which I think is also available. She's released on her website. Yeah, I was very keen. Yeah, I was very interested to hear about that. What else was there on Saturday? Simone from Soy ID told us a bit about her ranjis. She does these amazing pieces that are on banding that are just it's borders from Schoolgirl Samplers, and she had all her models and they were amazing. Claudia Dutcher gave us a talk on Bristol samplers and the history of Bristol samplers, and also hand models, there to speak. She also gifted us with the chart, but that's some electronic and I've not had a chance to print it off yet. They were the ones I can remember. There may have been others, but yeah. Right, and I have forgotten something else, so I'm going to have to pause it again here and go and get that. Okay, as I mentioned, there were opportunities to go shopping. So I made a couple of trips to the store. I treated myself to some mini beans. I'll take these out of the bags now. Sorry about that. So there's a couple of fobs. Knocking stuff over here. Still got mass. I'm just surrounded by piles of stuff. Are these counting pins, including a counting pin that is a frog, which I've needed over the last few days. If you can see, here's a very jolly looking frog. So I bought those from Sue of Mini McBeans. From Michelle, I treated myself to a whole yard of 40 count linen in the creme brulee colourway, because she had this piece that, while it's mottled, isn't too mottled. So I'm sure that will end up with a, yeah, the mottling sort of varies across the piece. So I've got, I can probably work out, so I'm sure that will end up with a Hands Across the Sea sampler on it at some point. That was my big extravagance of the weekend, was the yard of linen. Also from Michelle, I bought a couple of charts. I bought Charlotte Kingsley Griffin. Don't know if you can get that without the glare. And I bought Harriet Hay. Oh, I know who else was speaking. Krista Grammer of Just Stitching Along. She did a piece on English samplers. And again, she's just released a new sampler that's just from Saxton, which is just up the road from me, so I need to get my act together and go and buy that one, because I do like it when samplers are relatively local to me. Both Rosemary of Featherstone and Florence Mary Dickinson are Yorkshire girls, so that's quite nice. And when she came for the afternoon, Jane Greenough had her shop as well. She had designed a piece for the retreat. It's called the Little Book of English Samplers. So you make a little needle book which has various different styles of sampler on. I don't think there was a picture of the whole book on the chart, but I did see the model and it's beautiful. So this is about 10 pages each with different different sampler styles on. So I treated myself to that one. And the Mary Ann Gollings sampler, which is one that Jane has reproduced. When I sat down at my back place on the Friday night, there was everyone had a bag, which was actually becoming very useful. So I'm sure that will use that as a project bag at some point. Collating things. Everyone who was at the retreat got a door prize. We each had in our box that we got given on Friday night, everyone had a raffle ticket. So everybody got a door prize. Some people had a special envelope in there, which then meant that they got a bigger door, one of the bigger pieces that have been donated. But so my door prize included a packet of cards. I've got Sarah Milthorpe and Lucy Barber. Four little girls from Mill on the Floss samplers. Anne Ogden from Hands Across the Sea. Sarah Howarth from Hands Across the Sea. And Eliza Johnson from Hands Across the Sea. There was another Mill on the Floss chart in there, but it was Charlotte Kingsley Griffin, which I bought earlier. So I passed that on to one of my table mates who liked it and hadn't bought it at that point. So yeah, we had a great time. So I arrived late, so I didn't really. So I had to just find somewhere with a table that was free. But I ended up on a great table with a couple of people that I'd met. I'll bet one of them about 15 years ago. So I was on table with Anna Meek from Das Hamburg Boutique in the Netherlands. Anna Meek I'd actually met at Needleprint Retreat several years ago, 15 years ago. So it was really nice to see her again. There were a few folk there from Yorkshire Stitches group, which I've managed to get to. And I will... so it was nice to see them. I saw lots of people I had not seen for years, that I used to regularly see at stitching classes and things like that. So I I was sat next to Simone from Soyedi. Who else was on the table? Bettina. A few other people. I was actually sat next to Stacey, who was the 911 stitcher, so it was lovely to meet her. I'd actually taken my friendship book that I'd got given at one of the needle print retreats, because we got two. Jacqueline organised 2 retreats, so I tried to go around all the I hit every table. I didn't get everyone who was there and got them to sign my book, because I know from having done other retreats, the needle print retreats, that's actually a really nice keepsake. So yeah, so it's lovely to meet so many people. And lots of people came around and gave gifts out. So I have a whole bag full of goodies from people who were there. Traditional Stitches were there. They gave out this lovely little ruler. I think it was made by Kathy Ray, of hanging by a thread. No, Needle in a Haystack is Kathy Ray's shop in Almeida. Lots of people came round and gave out thread cards. So I've got those from Bettina Cross Stitch on Instagram, who's also on my table. It was lovely to meet Bettina, having followed her for quite some time. It was nice to put a few names to Instagram handles as well. Some more floss cards that we got, drops that we got given. That was one of Annemiek's postcards. Annemiek very generously gave us a sample of linen, 38 count Italian linen. Evelyn Joseph came around. She'd made everyone some floss jewellery, and she'd actually stitched a little bird for everyone at the retreat, which was just amazing. So yeah, some more thread drops. There was a bag on my seat when I got there, so I have no idea who some of these came from. Tomato pink cushion. Another bit of floss jewellery. More thread drops. We were all giving out thread drops. So more thread drops, more thread drops. Just stitching along gave us this corner gauge. That has more thread drops in. Got some stickers off Annemiek. Oops. Drop them. There was a box with some more Saju thread winders in on our my table. So I don't know who they came from. One of the attendees at the retreat gave us these bookmark kits, which would be nice which you'll no doubt get to at some point. Hand embroidery. Someone else, Under the Garden Moon, gave out some needle minders. And Anime gave us some little envelopes with papers in. And some perforated paper. And so and there's the selection of chocolate. There were more chocolate. There was more chocolate, but my kids found that, so that went very quickly. So Anime also gave us an envelope with some pen and book in, and a little bit about her shop. Stuff disappearing all over the place. Oh, and our box also had that I got on the first night. I had this scissor brooch from Mini McBeans, which I appear to have lost the back of at some point, but I'll have to find that later. The other thing I did while I was at the retreat is, if you remember, I was working on something I couldn't show, is I took part in the Smalls Exchange. So I'll put pictures of what I did for the Smalls Exchange in. I made a needlebook from the I think it was Stitch's Journey, or how was it, Honeysuckle? No, Stitch's Journey book by Blackbird Designs. So it was called the Birds and Berries needlebook, and I'll put some pictures in here. It was stitched on a piece of 32 count Picture This Plus earthen, I think it was. So I just had a piece that was just the right size, and used all the call for over-dyed threads, so they were the same colour as everything else. So so using the call for over dyes, and I'll put some pictures in here, and then you can see it. It was so fraught on the run up to going away. I meant to shoot some video and I didn't get around to it. So, and then on to what I got from the exchange. I was given this bag. It's got a gift bag, and it had this lovely bag inside. It's a beautifully finished ditty bag with a pocket. It's got that's the lining fabric. I think it's all Liberty Tannerlawn. And inside is this beautiful needlebook. There you go. With a lovely pair of scissors and a scissor fob. Some needles and some more thread cards. And this is beautifully stitched by Leonora, who is at Sampler Threads on Instagram. She's actually one of Hands Across the Sea's model stitchers, so I'm exceptionally pleased to get this. Thank you so much, Leonora, because I know she watches. She told me she did. And the motifs all come from the Sarah Rinder sampler from Hats. That is one that Leonora stitched, did the model stitching for. Now also when we were at the retreat, Nicola Davey told us about a couple of shop exclusives that were coming up, and she had the models there and they were just sat there and I'd been admiring them thinking, oh that's nice, I've not seen that one before. One of which is the one for Hobby House Needleworks for this year, and if we ordered it that weekend, got a discount. So I think we all jumped online and got the Martha Walmsley sampler. So that's my only other bit of stash for this month, is I got the kit for that. So that is comes with 40 count Lallybrock linen, and I got the DMCs, which again came packed in this little pouch and a matching frippery. So again, you'll see that as one of my new starts for next year. So to add to my collection. Having seen the model, it is absolutely exquisite, and I'm not sure if I've ever seen one with a bird of paradise on like that. It's beautiful. Anyway, the other one we saw was the traditional stitches and Johnson, so I've also ordered that. That will come at some point. Again, saw the model, absolutely stunning. So yeah, so that was the retreat, and then when it finished, I had to jump in the car and head straight back to pick it all up again on Monday morning. So anyway, I'm going to pause here, tidy up a little bit, and then I'll come back and show you my knitting and quilting. Right, on to the knitting and the quilting that I've done since I last recorded. As far as knitting goes, I've just worked on 2 projects. I've worked on my hive shawl, which is a seasonal pattern by Marna Gilligan. She did 4 seasonal shawls last year. I'm knitting this using Marna's own hand-dyed linen in the Take Me for a Walk in the Morning Dew colourway. So I'm starting with the Cat in Silk, and then, which is this one, and then I thought I was about onto doing the mohair section. However, when I counted my stitches, I'd got too many, so I need to do some ripping back and working out how I'm going to work out where I got to with that one. My progress keeper shows where I was when I last recorded. and where I've got to since. So I'm about finished the stocking stitch section, and the colours are very delicate, so I'm not sure they're showing up very well. They're very pale yellows and greys. But yeah, I need to do some ripping back to work out where I went wrong. That will come up again in December. Well, that one. And then the only other piece I've been working on in October is my habitation throw by Helen's Curious Handmade. And cracking on with that one. I'm now well past the corner. So let me see where my progress keeper is. I just started the purple stripes last time I recorded, so it's there. So I've got 2 on my second colour of purple, which I think is Needham Cottage Yarns. So this is a scrappy blanket. I'm using leftover wool from shawls, though there's the occasional pair of socks in there as well. To work down my spare all the odds and sods of a 4-ply yarn that I've got lying around. So that's habitation throw. Next month I'll be back to working on my pair of socks, also by Curious Handmade. I didn't bring them up because I've got enough to show this time. So yeah, so it's cracking on with that. And as far as quilting goes, I actually have a completed quilt top. I don't know that I'll get it in. I might well probably have to insert a picture. But I have finished piecing my Sparkle and Shine quilt top. This was a mystery quilt by Sheila Christensen in 2021 that I did through Lisa at the Modern Quilt Club. Very pleased to have one of the quilt tops done. My plan is to quilt this one myself, so that will be the next stage. So I need to sandwich it next and crack on with the quilting, which won't be anything complicated because I'm not experienced enough at quilting my own quilts to do that. So yeah. So I'll put a picture of the whole quilt out. And then aside from that, I've been working on this kit I bought many years ago at the Knitting and Stitching show from a company called Euro Japan Links. This is copyright 2008, so it's been in my stash a while. It's called an indigo pin cushion, and it's a bit of shashiko embroidery, which I've started. I need to work on getting my stitches an even length, but I'm quite enjoying working on this one. So this is a couple of sessions work, and then I've got this lovely Japanese cotton to go inside and make the pin cushion when I finish the embroidery section. So it'd be quite nice to get that little kit out of the drawer and out to be able to use it. And I think that is about it. So thank you very much if you've hung in this long. So thank you very much for those of you who keep coming back. I'm very grateful to everyone who subscribes to this channel, who likes, leaves comments. So yeah, thank you very much. I will be back at some point in the Christmas holidays, but we don't break up for Christmas until bang up on Christmas, so it'll probably be the beginning of January before I get a chance to record again. So take care everyone, hope you will enjoy the the upcoming holiday season, whatever holiday you celebrate, and I will see you all probably after Christmas, I think, if I'm being honest, because like I say, we don't break up till the 22nd of December, and I'm probably going to have far too much to do on the run up to get everything ready for Christmas at that point. So yeah, so take care. Thank you for watching, and I hope to see you all around soon. Okay, bye.